Welcome back. Today, we're digging into a really powerful and, let's be honest, super controversial weapon, the cluster bomb. We're going to look at the strategy behind why Iran would use them against Israel's incredibly advanced air defenses.
So let's just start with a huge strategic problem. I mean, imagine you're the military planner here. Your target is locked down behind one of the best shields on the planet, something like Israel's Arrow missile system, which is amazing at stopping big, single targets. How on earth do you get past that?
Well, the answer is you change the game entirely. Think about it. A single big warhead, that's one math problem for a defense system to solve. But a cluster warhead, that thing breaks apart into 80-plus little bomblets, all flying in different directions. It's not one problem anymore. It's a complete tactical nightmare. You're not trying to hit one thing perfectly. You're just trying to make sure something gets through by completely overwhelming the defense.
And that's what brings us to our first big idea here, overwhelming the shield. We're literally talking about creating a shotgun effect in the sky, a strategy designed specifically to beat these modern air defenses. So the missile's flight path is this incredibly calculated journey. First, you've got the launch and boost, punching it way, way up high. Then it just coasts for a while. And this is the absolute make-or-break moment for a defense system like Israel's Arrow 3. It has to get the kill right here, while it's still just one target. Because if it doesn't, well, that's when the real nightmare starts.
Because at this one precise moment, and the IDF reports this happens at around 23,000 feet up, the whole thing just violently bursts open. That single target the computers were tracking, poof, it's gone. And in its place, you suddenly have dozens and dozens of smaller threats. So what is this weapon that can do that? Let's get into it. What exactly is a cluster bomb? The short answer, it's a weapon of area denial. Yeah, the key phrase you got to remember here is multiple smaller explosives. See, a normal bomb is all about one big boom. A cluster munition is totally different. Its whole job is to be a dispenser, just to scatter these little bomblets over a massive area. And if you could peek inside one of these Iranian cluster warheads, this is pretty much what you'd find. You've got the casing, sure, but the real payload is what's packed inside. Anywhere from 20 to 80 of these little independent bomblets. Each one is packing about 2.5 kilos of high explosives. You let all those loose, and suddenly you can blanket an area with a radius of up to 10 kilometers. Just incredible. Okay, so how do these little things actually work? The engineering behind them is frankly both brilliant and terrifying. So let's do a mechanical breakdown. We're going to look at a comparable piece of tech, the American M42 bomblet. So first things first, you got to get this thing to the target. It could be from a missile or, like you see here, a big 155mm howitzer shell. The principle is exactly the same. A huge force launches a container filled with these bomblets. But the real magic, the real clever part, happens mid-air. All right, now this is where it gets really, really cool from an engineering standpoint. This is the arming sequence once the bomblets are out. A little nylon ribbon pops out, and get this, it's not a parachute to slow it down. It's there to make it spin and point the right way down. As it's falling and spinning, that rotational force literally unscrews the firing pin. Then, that same spinning force slides another part into place, and boom, it's fully armed. It's this all-mechanical, multi-step safety that makes sure it only becomes a live weapon once it's in the air. And here's the kicker. When that little armed bomblet finally hits something, it does two devastating things at once. It has a shaped charge that creates this jet of superheated metal, hot enough and fast enough to punch right through almost 3 inches of armor. And at the exact same time, the grenade body itself just shatters into a cloud of deadly fragments. So it's anti-tank and anti-personnel all in one tiny, nasty package. And that incredible mechanical efficiency, well, it leads us right from the clean world of engineering to the incredibly messy and devastating aftermath. We have to talk about the human cost of this area denial strategy. The ethical problems here are just huge. I mean, these weapons are indiscriminate by their very nature. They're designed to scatter everywhere, so they can't tell the difference between a tank and a school. But honestly, the biggest, most persistent problem is that a whole bunch of these little bomblets, they just don't go off when they're supposed to. And that failure rate creates exactly what this quote says: a long-term hazard long after the conflict is over. These unexploded bomblets, or UXO, they basically just become thousands of scattered landmines. They can just sit there for years, even decades, waiting for some farmer to hit one with a plow or for a kid to pick one up. It's this lasting danger that has, for good reason, made this a deeply controversial weapon. And it's created a really clear global divide on whether they should even exist. So you've got more than 100 countries that have signed on to the Convention on Cluster Munitions. It's a big international treaty that bans everything: using them, making them, selling them, stockpiling them. But, and this is a big but, several of the world's major military powers are not on that list. You've got the United States, Russia, and of course, Iran. These countries have all made the decision to keep these weapons in their arsenals, arguing that they're just too useful from a military perspective to give up. And that really leaves us with the final and frankly haunting question that this whole topic brings up. Is there any tactical advantage, even one as significant as beating a top-tier air defense system, that can ever justify the massive, long-lasting risk these weapons pose to civilians? Hey, if this explainer was useful to you, do us a favor and hit that like and subscribe button. It really does help us keep making more of these. Thanks for tuning in.